Recently I went on the search on AliExpress for Toubillon watches to see what they had available, and I became aware of a lot of beautiful watches, and one of those watches was this Merkur, and coincidentally they reached out to me just after I released that video and offered to send me one. Hello, you're watching James. My name's James, you're watching me, and I am talking about watches. And the idea of having a watch with a tourbillon movement previously has never really been something that I've considered. Partly because I've just thought it is completely outside of my price range, and the ones that were sort of more within my price range weren't watches that I was particularly interested in, which was why I wanted to do that video previously talking about and identifying and searching for watches that are on AliExpress containing tourbillons that are actually might be worth considering. And I was surprised when I saw this one. And I was even more surprised when they reached out to me and offered this one to feature on a video. So thank you very much to Merkur. It is a watch that I was certainly interested in seeing, but it was a watch that I think I was more interested in seeing rather than interested in owning. And well, like it has happened to me on many occasions before, just that idea of interest has then changed to really enjoying once I got hands-on with them. And it was thanks to Merkur, which is why you would have seen that sponsored icon up there previously. And I'm going to leave a link to this watch in the description of this video. And I'm now so glad that I have had this time to get hands-on with it because, well, I want to share my experiences with you because it has gone beyond just a general interest for it. It's actually a really nice watch and something that I'm enjoying wearing. If you go looking on the AliExpress store, you will see that there are a few different options. I went for the blue dial variation, but there's a green, a grass green, and also a blue purple. They have 30 meters of water resistance. It has sapphire both on the front and the rear, which I have tested, and it does come up as a sapphire reading. They cost $389 US, and they contain a high beat tourbillon movement. And I'm not sure what tourbillon movement that is because no matter where I look online, I can't find what exact movement it is, but it is a high beat tourbillon. But I will say it is a little bit larger than I expected. Not that I should have expected it to be small because I knew the dimensions from looking on the website, but it looks like a smaller, delicate dress watch, but it then sits a little bit differently because it is a little bit bigger than that. The case itself is actually 41.7 millimeters. It is only 12.8 millimeters tall, but it does have a lug-to-lug of 49.5. That lug width is 22 millimeters, but it actually then only weighs in at 68 grams. And surprisingly, even though it has those larger sort of dimensions, it actually sits down onto my 17 centimeter wrist really well, and in a way that it actually surprises me, because when I actually then measured this watch when it arrived, I thought, oh, it's kind of a cool and interesting watch and I do like it, but I think it might be a bit too big for me. But now that I've put it on and I'm wearing it, it actually feels nice. And I think it feels really nice partly because of the case shape and how it then sits down onto my wrist. But I'll get back to that. Let's talk about the dial of this watch and then the movement as well. Because the dial is, well, it's probably actually the biggest standout feature of this watch. I did really expect it to be the tourbillon movement, and it is something that is lovely and it does sort of capture my attention, but this sparkly blue dial, well, it sort of overrides that somewhat. It really does grab your attention, and I'm not exactly sure what it is. Again, their website doesn't give any information about what it is. I don't know if it's a little bit of a meteorite or a stone dial or if it's a produced dial, but what I can say, it is lovely. In the sunlight, it sparkles at different angles. As you zoom in on it, it looks really good. It's manufactured very well. Whatever it actually is, well, it's very nice. The dial itself with the time on it is like a silvery white. It is surrounded by a polished piece of steel which separates it from that blue dial. It has Roman numerals, blued hands. Well, at least I'm going to be calling them blued hands because they look heat-treated blue. Again, no information on the website, so I can't define that, but they look heat-treated blue. But then of course there is, well, probably the main reason why you would buy this watch, and that is that tourbillon movement. It's a very pretty looking movement, it's a high beat movement, and it does really hold your attention when you then start to zoom in on it and look at it. And when you flip the watch over, you'll actually see that the movement itself is also beautiful. It is a skeletonized tourbillon movement, but for some reason they've chosen, at least on this watch, to put some text on that crystal, which then does stop you seeing the movement as well. Looking at their website and their AliExpress store, it doesn't appear that this is on every model. Maybe it's just the one that I was sent. But for me, it disrupts that a little bit because it is such a pretty looking movement. It is a little bit of a shame that that does exist. But let's get back to that dial because it is really pretty and it is covered by a really nice double-domed sapphire crystal, which I don't know if it has any anti-reflective coating or not, but I can say it almost disappears. So they've used something that is quite nice, or at least suits this watch very well. That leads to an all polished solid bezel and all polished case. Now, I want to talk about the case a little bit, partly because it does then end up sitting down on wrist nicely, which is very nice for a larger watch, a watch that does look like this. However, what surprises me a little bit about this is that I've owned quite a few Merkur watches before, and they do tend to reuse their cases, which is not a negative. Watch brands do this all the time. It's a way they're able to produce different styles of watches using the same case, but this one is completely unique to any of their other watches. It is rounded. It is soft, it is almost organic, and it suits this watch beautifully. The strap actually has a really nice grey colour to it, has a slight plastic feel to it, but it is very soft. It does have that interesting buckle on it with the two keepers as well. It is a strap that I think works fine, but for me it is a bit of a placeholder because I think this watch is actually so nice that it deserves something a little bit better. But it's nice just to have something that is soft, that easy to use, whilst you sort of go looking within your own collection or searching for another strap to replace it with. Now, of course, this one only has 30 meters of water resistance, as I'd probably expect for a style of watch like this. But because of that, you'd obviously expect this one just to have a non-screw down crown, which it does, which is fantastic because this is a manually wound movement only, which I think most tourbillon movements are manually wound, and it has a nice clicking action as you do turn that crown, a nice size. That crown does seem to suit this watch, and it then starts up this high beat tourbillon movement. And it has been really interesting getting this watch into my own collection because initially I was interested in the movement and I was interested in the general design of this one, but I didn't think it would end up being a watch that I'd probably wear until then. It obviously then did enter my collection, and I can say I have been wearing it. It is nice. The size is larger, but it seems to fit down onto my 17 centimeter wrist perfectly fine. It seems to sort of suit this because it gives that dial a little bit of space to have that tourbillon movement as well as the actual dial of the watch. And the case itself then sits down and around my wrist nicely, and it's very comfortable. But I will say it is a little bit disappointing that they have put that text on that rear crystal. I will say that the strap, albeit perfectly fine, functional and soft, is something that I probably will be replacing in the future. And it would also be quite nice to have a little bit more information about this watch. I think Merkur in general don't seem to give us a lot of information. I've had this problem with them before, so I don't exactly know what movement it is. I don't know what the dial is made of. So we've got to take that little bit of a leap of faith if you particularly like this watch. And I can say it's very nice. I have enjoyed having it. I certainly hope that you have enjoyed seeing this one in a little bit more detail, especially when it's out in the sun, seeing that dial just sparkle. Thanks so much for watching. Here's a couple other videos you might want to watch next.